Thanks, Jer and Jim for previous presentation. So some of you I already know, some of you I don't. So obviously I'm the first non-Galwegian up here this morning. So I am from Dublin, living in Cork, strangely enough, but it's all going well so far. So today I'm here to talk about digital tools for design, construction and operation of buildings. I suppose I work on behalf of Autodesk resellers, and today I'm here on behalf of Datech, and that they're a gold partner of Autodesk in Ireland, and Mark Green is here on behalf of Datech. So a little bit about myself. I'm a BIM specialist for Autodesk products, and we do BIM consultancy as well around Ireland and the UK. And then my previous experience is about 12 years in the AEC industry. I've worked as a BIM manager in an architect's practice for about a year and a half, and then I've worked as an architectural technologist for about 10 or 11 years as well. And then also previous to that, kind of CAD technician, Australia, and then around Ireland as well in kind of different sectors as well. So I feel it gives me somewhat of an insight to where I suppose Autodesk products and BIM tools fit in as well. So we all know what BIM is, we all know why we're here today. So just to put it in context, it is to design and build buildings more efficiently and about connecting information. And I think this is an interesting 20% stat here taken from the World Economic Forum from last year, but interesting to compare that to the roadmap 20% aims as well, and to really see it in a similar context that, you know, it's not just the roadmap that's aiming for this, it's being discussed globally as well, and for similar targets. And the opening statement from the roadmap, this is I came across this a couple of weeks ago, and I think it really sets a good context for where not only technology but as well that the people and the processes being as big of part of BIM as well as the technology as well. So being able to combine it with collaborative processes, and it is already being done around the world as well. So we've seen these technologies, we've seen BIM tools, BIM workflows are being used in Ireland, and they're being used globally as well. And I think that the aims and targets within the roadmap as well, they are achievable. It could be a different timeline, but we've seen these being done around the world. And say in the Vision 2021, the roadmap target number one of having a 3D model as your planning application and submitting that's already being done in Singapore. They accept, Singapore Building Control Authority accept Revit models, and they've other vendors as well, and they accept your actual RVT file as your planning application, and it's then analysed automatically for certain elements of building regulations as well. So it's been done already, and it is only a matter of time before we see it in Ireland. And then being able to reduce practices as well. You don't need me to tell you these roadmap targets, but just I think it sets a good context to see where we are in Ireland, but to see where digital tools can fit in as well. So I suppose we're all quite familiar with the McLeamy curve. As your project progresses in the traditional processes, it becomes more expensive to make changes on bigger projects, more complex projects, and it's a massive cost impact. And that 20% in the roadmap, that, you know, there's a saving for a BIM process within the McLeamy curve there to make changes and to have connected information. And you can see that's driven down in your ability to impact costs as the project progresses as well. So that's impacting on your 20% targets that you might talk about in the roadmap. And I suppose to bring it into an Autodesk context, I don't know if people are familiar with Esri. They produce software like ArcGIS, and it's almost like science meets geography. So they might be able to tell you that there's 20 Starbucks in such an area, but they can also tell you about the flood history of an area as well. And they've recently partnered with Autodesk, and that was announced in November in Autodesk University, and that's going to be an integration between Esri and Autodesk, and it's going to be a user interface is how it's being discussed as a concept, that you'll be able to access Esri information within Autodesk products as well. And then this is just one of their infographics to be able to bring BIM information together with GIS information. And I really think that the bigger picture of BIM, even outside of buildings, it is, GIS can really bring it all together, and really to leverage information not only from buildings but also from the broader scale as well, looking at smart cities, and from an urban and city context as well. So to be able to integrate them together is a really great outlook looking for BIM as well. So I suppose moving on to some design tools. We're all familiar with Autodesk Revit. And today I suppose I want to give you an insight. Some of you may or may not be aware of certain other Autodesk products that also support the design process as well. I have used these products in practice myself. This one is called Format, and if anybody has an AEC collection, you're able to access this. It's already included in it. It's very similar to SketchUp, and I've used it myself. Works very easy to use, very intuitive. But the added, I suppose, benefit of it as well is that you're able to reuse that geometry and push that geometry into Revit, and then you can convert all of your massing study, your massing geometry, convert that into walls and windows and roofs, so there's no loss of information going from either your early design or concept stage going into Revit. You're not using a separate 3D model and then recreating it within Revit. You're able to use that geometry and bring it straight through. You can also do energy studies on that Format Pro model as well, and this can be used on an iPad or a desktop or within a web browser as well in Format 360. And then, as I said, you can push that further into Revit as well. So this is a screenshot here. You can see it's quite similar to other 3D massing tools as well. Quite basic kind of user interface, very easy to use. But it's very effective as well and good for an early design stage project. And again, as I said, you can push that information into Revit and reuse the same geometry, so there's no loss of information or no loss of work either, so quite efficient. This is another workflow by using that massing tool as well and pushing that information into Insight 360 or Insight Pro as part of the AEC collection, but you can do building analysis on it. Now, this is designed to American standards and ASHRAE standards as well, which are American, but I've tested this out before, and you can use it to indicate at an early design stage your solar gains, or if you've got solar overheating on a particular aspect or facade of your building. You can see that it highlights there in the solar gains as they're happening, and obviously the red, the sun is hitting the most, and you can geolocate this to locations in Ireland as well, so it's not only America or the US. So I suppose with that in mind, you're able to then reuse that information, as I said, and reuse that same analysis within Revit as well. And then I suppose moving on from the design stage, okay, we have an early concept design, we want to capture information on site. We're all familiar with the Leica BLK, but as part of the AEC collection, you also have Recap Pro. Recap Pro allows you to bring in cloud models and laser scanned models and bring that information into Revit, and Recap Pro interpret that for you. And I suppose there is a link between the Leica and Recap Pro. It's basically a one-click switch on the BLK, you scan it and it will automatically send it into Recap Pro. And again, Recap Pro integrates directly within Revit as well. So you're able to scan all that information, capture all your on-site information and convert that into a Revit model. And suppose moving your design along as well, looking at the sort of concept into design and construction, automation, design stage, looking at Dynamo to be able to use visual programming to automate certain parts of your design. So being able to create design options using visual programming. If people aren't familiar with Dynamo, it's visual programming. It's basically programming without programming skills needed. So it uses a series of nodes. You connect your commands together as they relate back to your Revit model, and you're able to leverage your geometry and your design information in an even further way than you could do within Revit as well. And it integrates directly with Revit as well. So it's being used. I've seen it used in Ireland. It's used globally as well, and there is a free version of it as well. That's a free plugin as part of Revit as well. I don't know if this video is going to click.
Autodesk Dynamo Studio helps enhance Autodesk Revit and makes it better. Let's take a look at a workflow where Dynamo and Revit, along with Navisworks, can help.
Sorry, I didn't mean the sound for that. So basically what this is doing is taking Revit geometry, it's pushing it through to Navisworks, it's running clash detection, it's then using Dynamo to push those clashes back into Revit, which I know you can do already, but then it places an object wherever you have a clash. We can see here that it's going to push that information. It's going to run Dynamo. It's going to pull the clash information back into Revit. And it's pulled the clashes and it's automatically placed an arrow wherever you see a clash, and it's titled them accordingly as well. So that's all done through visual programming. It's been automated as a result of using Dynamo, but what it can also do is it's quite flexible in terms of other commands that you could add into that. So I saw a script last week on a course I was on that an opening was created wherever a pipe ran through a wall, and that was all automated as well, and you can actually see it's being done there as well. So just to show you some practical example of Dynamo, it can be quite conceptual stuff out there in terms of Dynamo material. So from an MEP context. And then I suppose moving on your design, looking at the kind of how can we analyse the performance of it. So as well as being able to use Autodesk Insight at the early stage, you can analyse your building further along as well in terms of heating and cooling loads. Now as I said, some of these are American standards, but I've tested this and it still gives you an indication of how a building might perform as well. And it's good to present at maybe an early design stage to a client to be able to show them certain different graphs, or you might show them an image like this to show them the solar gains or where they might be losing heat or where there might be pressure on their building design as well as a result of solar gains, but you can also do daylighting analysis within that as well. And it can tell you the lux count as well, which is a fairly global standard. And I suppose looking at this in the context of the roadmap, as one of the incentives that I found while reading through the roadmap was being able to visualise your information at a design stage, and this assists clients to be able to see a different outcome in their building or what their building might look like. So I've related this back to be able to use VR or certain workflows by using what we call Revit Live, which works directly within Revit. It is included in the AEC collection, so if you have one already, it's free to use. It's a fairly simple workflow. You basically just go to your toolbar, your plugin, Revit Live plugin, click upload to the cloud. It will send it up in about 5 minutes. And then 5 minutes later you can download it and you can use it either with a VR headset, or you can just use your desktop PC to walk through it as well. And it gives you full rendered walkthroughs as well, so Oculus Rift, HTC, they all work on it as well. So just being able to see that as an added workflow and to be able to visualise your building in a different context. I suppose another part of the AC collection that a bit of a lesser known one, I think this was only added back in September, is vehicle tracking. And I think we saw at the Limerick event, we saw the guys from Malachy Walsh were using this to demonstrate how they transport wind turbines as well, and to show the road sweep as well. So this comes as part of the AEC collection, but you can also do parking layouts as well, and it will automate all your parking layouts, and it has all the built-in, it doesn't have built-in Irish standards, but it does have British standards and European standard car parking as well. And I suppose we want to look at streamlining our project delivery and how do we reach that 20% in the roadmap as well. That's discussed. So we want to be able to accelerate our schedules and collaborate between different disciplines, but also to be able to access information kind of anytime, anywhere. So how do we go about doing that? So I don't know if you've heard of collaboration for Revit. I've used this in practice as well, and it is quite effective. So this is cloud collaboration. You can be working in the same office. You can be working remotely from each other in a different country. One person syncs their model to the cloud. It updates automatically, and then the person on the other side, either within your office on a different floor, working in a different location around Ireland, they can sync the model from the cloud within Revit, and it pulls down all the changed information as well. And it's quite beneficial in adding to collaboration, and it really kind of manages part of the manual process that's used within creating work sets and using work sharing as well. So I suppose looking at the construction stage and what kind of tools are out there for that. Well, I suppose I spoke about connected BIM and being able to pull all your information together as well, and really having that in the one central location. And I suppose looking at in the context of the roadmap again, being able to have remote access or mobile access to any information as well, and kind of BIM 360 offers some of that as well, especially the likes of BIM 360 Docs, BIM 360 Field. And I suppose if you look at this in a construction context, it's basically putting iPads and mobile devices in the hands of contractors and guys on site and project managers and construction managers who, it wasn't always a technological industry by any means 10 years ago, and I even saw that as a teenager working in the construction industry, how far it's come, and to see guys with iPads on site being able to create barcodes and locate that to a room and link that back to your BIM model. It's being done and it's being used in Ireland quite extensively. I think the National Children's Hospital have used this. I think one of the BICP case studies was the Trinity Business School. They used a lot of Field and Glue and Docs as well. So it is being used and it has been adopted in a global and an Irish context. You're able to create checklists, so this could be your construction manager or your site manager has their iPad and they're able to create checklists on site. The Trinity Business School did use this for B-car regulations and checklists as related to B-car as well. So quite a relevance there, I suppose, to in an Irish context. And what this information does, you can push this information, if it's created in BIM 360 Field, for example, you can push this information back to BIM 360 Glue, and it automatically connects to your BIM model. So if somebody goes in, finds an issue with a room, they can scan a barcode in a room, they can log that issue. It could be a snagging list saying, door is damaged. Then the next person, the project manager, comes in, they scan that barcode and it will bring up all the issues that are related to that room or that location. However, it depends how the barcoding is set up, but again, it is possible and it is being used. And I suppose looking at BIM 360 Docs, what can that do? As I said, you can access it on an iPad. You're able to view your 3D models on an iPad. You're able to access them while you're on site. You can download them while you have an internet connection. If you're going to a site without an internet connection, you can download them beforehand, set it up for offline mode, and then you can access them for your site meeting, or if you're sending them on to a site manager or guys on site as well. And I suppose one of the new features of BIM 360 Docs is the drawing revisions and the versioning. So if you upload a new model with the same name, it will automatically give that a V1, V2 or a V3. You don't have to rechange or recheck any naming. And then you always know that you're working from the latest drawing or the latest model as well, and it's the latest information. So there's less room for error there as well. And you're also able to assign RFIs and issues by using the iPad on site, or else they can be retrieved by the guy using the iPad on site, and you've applied the RFIs or the issues from a different location. So it's just about being able to access and being able to share information between the cloud and being able to retrieve that information again for reusing it on site. Another example, BIM 360 Glue. This integrates with BIM 360 Field, and this allows you to do clash detection in the cloud. So being able to upload your model, and another discipline, structural engineer, architect, both upload their models separately from different locations, and you can run clash detection in the cloud, and that can all be accessed on an iPad or on a mobile device as well. And just the BIM 360 next generation is currently in the beta phase, and I think it's due to be complete by April. So I'd keep an eye out for that. It was announced back in November that all BIM 360 tools will be completely integrated as well. So that's a collaboration for Revit, Docs, Field, Glue. They'll all come under the one platform, hopefully in the middle of this year. And then moving on to operation. This is BIM 360 Ops. So the idea behind this is that all the information that you've created in your BIM model, you can then export that information still within the same workflow process. So being able to export your information from BIM 360 Field as equipment sets, it might be AC units, air handling units, and they might all have a barcode associated with them. And then the facilities manager is the building's operating, there's people either living or working in it if it's a commercial unit. The facilities manager is able to, if there's an issue with it, say an air handling unit or something that has a barcode on it, he's able to go up and scan that with his phone, and he's able to then log a ticket which plugs into the facilities management system. But again, I suppose the thing about this, it's reusing all the information that you've already created, that you started from the start of your design process. It's fed through into your construction process, and then it's reused again within your operation phase as well. And then I suppose just to go over this, and these are all the packages that are included within the AEC collection, and I do find it, it's a lot of products. You're not going to use them all, but just looking at some of the ones that are in there, for example, Recap Pro and Revit and Navisworks, all included within the same package. But then you also have vehicle tracking, so you have other pieces of software there that you might get asked to do, that you don't normally do, but you have access to the software there as well. And it also gives you access to cloud rendering as well, which is quite powerful. And Revit Live for virtual reality, which I've gone through as well. I've also seen, now architecture is my background, but I've seen advanced steel is really catching a lot of interest in the industry and is being used a lot more. We're seeing a lot of people asking for training for it as well, and there's workflows to take information from Revit in advanced steel and push that out for a prefabrication process as well. So almost looking at a complete workflow for off-site construction. And then I suppose look at the BIM 360, and I always got confused that, what is this BIM 360? BIM 360 is basically the cloud tools on offer from Autodesk, and this is kind of the stages that they apply. So we've team that goes across pre-design stage, and then we've BIM 360 Docs that kind of acts as a CDE and can house all your information. And then Glue as your clash detection, and then we've some other products as well, including Field for construction management as well. So thank you for your time.